Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about why you should actually try to gain as much muscle as you can, and you should train every muscle in your body for health purposes. So let's set aside the entire idea of bodybuilding. Let's set aside the entire idea of strength sports. All right, let's set aside bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman. Let's just forget all these things exist. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about normal people who only care about things like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, problems like that, right? Those sort of problems who are never going to use any sort of performance-enhancing drug, okay? So we're not talking about bodybuilder big. So when we say gain as much muscle as possible, when I make this statement in this context for health, I'm talking about as much muscle as you can reasonably gain without the use of any anabolic drugs, like not involving a syringe in any way. All right, you are not going to stick a syringe in your butt cheek. Okay, so short of doing that, gaining as much muscle as possible, drug-free and in a reasonable time frame. Again, I'm going to assume most people, when I'm giving advice, are not going to dedicate 20 years straight of their life towards maximizing gains. So I'm talking about just over the course of 3-4 years, okay? If a person comes in and literally trains every muscle in their body, top to bottom, I'm talking your calves, your biceps, your forearm, everything, right? Put as much muscle as you possibly can, train to maximize muscle mass. Notice I didn't say that you had to maximize 1 rep max strength. I didn't say anything like that. I said, let's just get as much muscle as you can on your frame, every man and woman. Will reduce your chances of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all these things that kill us. And when I say this, the cancer is a big one. And again, this is not my opinion, by the way. This is extremely well-researched information. Most medical doctors who study this stuff are very aware of this data. Like I said, this is pretty well common knowledge in the medical world at this point to anyone who has researched it to any great extent. Okay, so this isn't even a controversial point. But yeah, it will totally reduce your chances of cancer, diabetes, all that. Every pound of muscle that you gain actually has a measurable impact on these things and all your metabolic health. And the reason this matters, when people say, well, I care about quality of life. Well, this will improve your quality of life. I'm not even talking about all the other stuff. I'm not talking about that you'll look better. Yeah, you'll look better naked. Yeah, you'll feel better. Yeah, you'll have better sex. Yeah, you'll have less depression. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the really serious stuff, right? We already know all that stuff's going to happen. That's just a given. Those are icing on the cake. Those are bonuses. But cancer, we know that muscle cells compete with cancer cells for fuel. So in other words, your body can fight cancer off better the more muscle you have. Okay? And it all counts. It adds up. It adds up. So you shouldn't skip body parts. Like if your goal is to reduce things like cancer or diabetes, for example, you shouldn't skip a single muscle in your body. You need to dedicate some training every week to literally every muscle in your body, every major skeletal muscle. Your fingers maybe not, but I play the guitar, so I get that anyways. Your fingers might not matter. Maybe your neck might not matter. Maybe your toes. But pretty much everything else, yeah, it's going to matter. And the reason I say this is so important, cancer is like the number 3 cause of death in America. So, how many people are out there worried about accidents? How many people are worried about pew-pews? Okay? Things like that, right? These are things that people worry about. They worry about it a lot. You are dramatically more likely to die from cancer than you are from homicide. They're not even close. So, and anyone ever watched anyone die from cancer? I have. I've had a couple of loved ones die from cancer, and I've witnessed it. I've gone to a hospital and seen someone in their final few weeks, family member. I mean, these are all in-laws. No one in my immediate family has, but multiple people who family members of mine have married, I've watched them literally die from cancer. It's horrible. And that's what I would say to anyone. Anyone out there who's experienced that knows what I'm talking about. You all know what I'm talking about. Man, there's a lot of ways to go out of this world. Failing to get better under like chemotherapy. Oh man, that's rough. I've watched someone. I actually do have another family member who survived chemo a couple times. Is cancer free. That was rough. He survived, and he's a tough dude. By the way, he's a tough dude. He posts on my Facebook all the time. Like we talk, we call and everything. He's in another state, but he's a tough dude. He survived it. But I've also watched someone not, and I also had someone who they caught it too late. They're like, there's no treatment. There's nothing we can do. You got like 4 months at the most. They're like, even with the most invasive treatment, you're not going to live. And to watch that, good Lord. It's all I'm going to say is I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Okay? Let me be clear on that. Even people who have been horrible or done terrible things to me, I wouldn't even wish that on them. I wouldn't. That's not how I want to go out of this world. I've watched it. It's bad. And anyone who's seen this and watched a loved one pass of this is what I'm talking about, guys. Weight training gives you an ability to fight that off. It will dramatically reduce your cancer. And it will dramatically increase your odds of surviving the therapy. Like people who weightlift survive chemo and stuff at a much, much higher rate. So when I'm talking about this, when I mean gain as much muscle as you can, in this case, you're potentially fighting for your life. Okay? Well, you're fighting for your life. If you ever are at risk of any of these diseases, you're fighting for your life. The same thing. We know that weight training and muscle is cardioprotective. Again, not talking about bulking up fat to gain muscle, not talking about using grams of anabolics. We're talking about from just lifting weights and eating protein. Dramatically lowers cardiovascular risk. The same thing. Every pound of muscle you put on your body gives you an extra layer of protection. And a lot of it's because of the metabolic benefits, the effect on insulin sensitivity, the effect on glucose disposal, all these things in your body. Like this is the best thing you could do for those things. It's the best thing you can do for things like lowering circulating insulin, better glucose control, all these things. Well, that's all related to, it's not just diabetes, that's related to cancer. It's related to cardiovascular disease. Put on muscle. It could save your life. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.